Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to today's video where I'm just going to be kind of like doing a quick update comparison between the Google Pixel 5a and the Pixel 6a. Both devices are actually pretty good. We're going to talk about, obviously the jump and change from going from the 5a to the 6a. What did that mean for the Pixel community, as well as my thoughts on both these devices. So, yeah, strap in for it. Let's go. And so with the Google Pixel 5a and the Pixel 6a, this was Google's kind of a divide point, basically transitioning from a company that built devices that was just kind of flying under the radar to trying to stake its claim in the mobile market. And a perfect decision to do that, although some people disagree with me, and that's totally okay. I thought it was a perfect decision for Google to not only change up the fact of what type of chipset it was using, but also to change up the design itself. Now, there are lots of devices out there, and they all have different designs, how their camera modules are designed, the body style and everything like that. So for Google to create what we have is the camera visor. I think, it's very distinguishable. You can't look at this and say, oh, that's an Oppo or that's an Honor. The Pixel 6a, distinguishable. You can definitely identify this out there in the market. So with the Pixel 5a, some of the best things that I, enjoyed about this device, one is that they switched up from polycarbonate to this aluminum metal with a, coated back. Um, the 4A 5G, I would call it the twin to this to an extent, was more polycarbonate. But the 5A kind of brought in what they did with the Pixel 5 and kind of went with the metal body. And then, of course, you got this large display, camera sensor cut out at the top left, which, people kind of like it in the center. To me, doesn't really bother me all too much that it's up there in the top left corner. But one of the really coolest things about the Pixel 5a is that it still has the famous headphone jack, something that, is sorely missed by some people. Not everybody, but by some people miss that headphone jack. These days, everything is wireless dependent. So, with newer devices, you would definitely have to use wireless earbuds. That's something that you just can't be avoided. But another thing that I do thoroughly enjoy about the Pixel 5a is that it's got this fingerprint sensor on the back that unlocks the device, and it's pretty quick and pretty snappy to get in there. You can also double it up to pretty much bring down your notification shade just by swiping on it. Will bring that action. So that's something that's really nice and really cool. It is on Android 14. However, it is no longer going to be supported with, a major OS update. As you can probably tell, Android 15 beta is out. People are flashing it on their device. And this is not one of the phones on the list to receive Android 15 beta 1, which means that it's not going to get Android 15. It's pretty much at the end of its life cycle. It did get a security patch update, but that's pretty much about it. Battery life on this, really good. Have to give it that. Insane battery life. Audio quality is really good on it. The only downside that this device kind of has is really in two parts. One is 5G connectivity. Now, while this can connect to 5G, it only supports 5G NSA, which is non-standalone. This is the reason why that if you have it on T-Mobile and say, you turn off Wi-Fi, what you'll see is the 5G logo on the top, but you won't see 5G ultra capacity. It does not support standalone 5G. So that's kind of a sad thing. So if you are someone that does speed tests and things like that, you may frown upon that, or just, want to have 5G connectivity, you'll probably frown upon that. But does it mean that the speeds are slow? By no means are the speeds slow. It's just if there's only standalone 5G signal, this will not connect to it. And I know this because not far up the road, there is a tower that has a SA5G from T-Mobile. And when I cross that zone, it drops to LTE. So anywhere where non-standalone 5G, like say for T-Mobile, is currently up and running, it will connect. But if it's in an area where it's standalone only, it will not connect. to that. It'll drop to LTE. But me, I'm not a big stickler for 5G or LTE or any of that type of stuff. So, just kind of being honest with everybody, it's not something that, I'm going to gripe about. And the second thing is that it's not widely supported. So the only company that I can use eSIM on this device, because it does have eSIM, and you can have DSDS activated, so you can use dual SIM, dual standby. Problem is that for eSIM activations, T-Mobile seems to be the only one that supports it. So Metro by T-Mobile, Helium Mobile, those brands are able to activate the eSIM on this device. But if you're going like Verizon or AT&T, it won't even connect. And if you're on AT&T, they're LTE only. You will not connect to 5G at all whatsoever. I put Visible in here and have gotten their low band 5G connection, but on AT&T, it's LTE connection only, no 5G support at all whatsoever. That's because AT&T, I believe, went full standalone. But anyways, that's Pixel 5a. So with the Snapdragon 765G, it's a pretty solid device. I would give it that. As you guys can see, everything that I do on it is pretty snappy and quick. There's not really much of an issue. Of course, there's no 90 hertz refresh rate and none of that stuff. It's just basically 60 hertz refresh display. The display is nice and vibrant. Does okay in the sunlight, but I mean, it is what it is. So with that being said, from this point, Google decided to go in a different route. So what happened? Well, a whole design change and a reliance on a new chip. And that is the Pixel 6a. So whole new design, dependence on the Tensor G1 rather than going with a mid-range processor chip. They went with their own in-house built chip, which would make sense because a lot of people would have just gave it so much flack if they went with, a mid-range chip. People would definitely not see the value in the Tensor chips at all or TensorFlow. So yeah, the 6a launched with the Tensor G1. It is smaller than the Pixel 6, so kind of just maintaining that. But it's a nice, comfortable size, though. I will give it that much. They went back to this polycarbonate, well, Glastic is what a lot of people are calling it. It feels like glass, but it's not glass. It is, in fact, plastic. You got that camera visor on the top, but if you look real closely, there's like a pill-shaped cutout, and it houses the two camera sensors, 12.2 megapixel. Camera sensor, same that you would find in the Pixel 5a. So the photography theoretically should be almost similar, except for the fact that, now you have the Tensor G chip inside doing a lot of the heavy load on the image processing. So that could slightly develop a little difference between the two phones. But other than that, I mean, they pretty much function the same to a degree. Now, when you kind of just think about it, as you see here, this one supports the 5G ultra capacity. So you see the 5G you see on the very top, something that the Pixel 5a doesn't have. Alongside that, it is going to be supported for a good amount of time. This does have Android 15 Beta 1 currently on here. This also does not go on a higher refresh rate. So it does not go to a 60 or a 90 hertz refresh. Simply stays, 90 to 120 hertz. It doesn't have any of that. 60 hertz it does. I don't know what's wrong with my brain, but it is, still pretty snappy and pretty quick. I would give it that. The battery life, I wouldn't say is very similar to the Pixel 5a. I wouldn't say that, but it is still good enough to get you through an entire day. And audio quality, for me, honestly, is actually better on the Pixel 5a than on the 6a. However, the audio quality is still decent, though. You can hear your music loud and clear. Phone calls are nice on there. Sound is steady. It just doesn't have that extra punch of bass. So that's more of like a personal preference thing. So for some of you guys, the audio would be just fine for you guys. So just, a couple of changes with the Pixel 6a. We're talking about the processor chip being the Tensor G1. Of course, the photography in itself to be a little bit different. So I mean, it's got a lot of good things going for it today. And it launched, at the same price that the Pixel 5a launched for $449. So it's actually not bad for a $400 phone. And really kind of hard to classify this as a mid-range device. Like, we are used to calling Pixel A series devices mid-range because of how the 5A has, the Snapdragon 765G, which is a mid-range chip or an upper mid-range chip. So we just kind of look at these as like mid-rangers. However, everything with the Pixel 6A is identical to the Pixel 6, which is a flagship base model. Only difference is the build quality of the device. It's glasstic rather than actual true glass, and a little bit smaller and things like that. So that's pretty much it. So to me, this would even be still kind of considered in the flagship bracket if I really want to, call it as for what I see it. But nonetheless, I mean, they both do very, very well. Um, I think their displays are actually really good. And of course, the camera sensor, the selfie camera sensor has been moved to the center. Some people like that. I mean, it's all about preferences. If you don't mind it being to the left, that's totally up to you. But as far as like experiences, they both deliver me the same experience, just about. Even though one has like a mid-range chip, it still provides a pretty decent experience when I'm using it. Like Android is very well optimized, and obviously they were able to do that because they did the same thing with the Pixel 5, and the Pixel 5 is supposed to be their flagship base model, um, and that launched with the 765G chip as well as the Pixel 4a 5G. So 2020, Google was a little bit quirky with things. 2021 kind of brought in this whole new sense of TensorFlow, new design, and everything like that. Um, Downside to the Pixel 6a, lacking a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack, fully went in on, wireless connectivity. So that's just something that, I would say some people may frown upon, but most people use wireless devices today. Most people try to, have like Pixel Buds or, any of like the other brands like JVC or any of those. Or even, if you're using an iPhone, you have AirPods. So everyone's pretty much going wireless. But these devices, they're pretty solid and really, really, good for the future, good for the long haul, I would say. As far as for the A series in itself, I don't really see a reason for these devices to just vanish and go away. I honestly feel like that they do serve a purpose and that they should still remain. Of course, we would want things to be better in favor of us, the consumer, but not everything that we wish for, we get. So we can always throw out what we think it should have, speculate what they should do with it. And, we're lucky if they're even listening 9 times out of 10. But anyways, that's just a quick update comparing these two devices together. Honestly, they do really good, and there's really not much of a difference between them. So literally, you can go for the Pixel 5a if you like this type of design, or you can go with the 6a if you want the more newer look of Google Pixels. As far as performance, they perform almost about the same. And as far as, all the other things like audio, they're pretty much on par with each other, with the 5a just having a little bit more bass and punchiness to its sound. But battery life, the Pixel 5a really is going to take it there. As far as camera photo qualities and stuff like that, they're almost on par. Just a little bit, except that the rear camera on the 6A does shoot in 1080p 60 frames per second. If you're a vlogger, you're definitely going to want that smoothness of a video recording. But really, that's all the differences between them and some of the things that's very similar. Oh, and last thing, the body design of the Pixel 5a. It's not much of a fingerprint magnet as the 6a is. But the best part about these two is that I can rock them without a case with pure confidence because they are not made of like 90% glass.